Well, g'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. Super excited today. I've got the first set of Lone Rider MotoPanniers to hit Australia, so stick around for my show and tell. Well guys, this is the life of a YouTuber. Not sure if you can hear me for the wind. Setting up my camera shot here. Don't know what happened there, stalled the bike. I actually did trap my leg underneath the bike, but not under the panniers. Anyway, no harm done. I've got the shot, and we'll zoom in and look at the panniers. And I'll spin the view around. So they came over and rested on the panniers. Alright, so I'm going to have to try and get the bike back up, and we'll see how we go. I think I'll keep the camera running. Alright, I'm a big guy, so it's not too hard to, Sorry, I'll come in just in case you can't hear me. In fact, I'll turn my mic on. Alright, you should be able to hear me now. Now, that was completely unstaged. I set my camera up to do the shot down the bottom there, and I'm by myself and faffing around. I don't know what happened. Just stalled the bike, I think, and it fell over on me. Landed on the side of the panniers, so in my opinion that is a little bit better of a test than some American pretending to hit them with a sledgehammer, or some leprechaun in Ireland taking them down the bitumen. Alright, let me get myself together and get back on the bike. Don't go anywhere. I've been so looking forward to getting these panniers, and they're the first set to hit Australia from, actually the guy sent them from France, all the way from France, and I've been tracking them, and I've been so excited to do this, and I thought I'm going to do an epic Aussie video and set my camera up and do some ride-bys and, you know, the gravel stuff, and look at that, I dropped my bike like a complete cockhead. All right. All right, guys, let's jump back on the bike and continue on. And what we'll do is we'll find a quiet spot. It's quite windy today, but we'll find a quiet spot and I'll set up and I'll give you a closer look at the panniers, and I'll catch my breath. All right, let's see if we can get up the hill without any more drama. Okay guys, give me a few minutes, I'll set up the camera and see if we can do a little bit of a show and tell of the panniers. Stay tuned. All right guys, so I've composed myself, got myself back together, managed to get the bike up, no problems, and I've found a nice little spot. Now, I'd like to say it's pretty quiet. We're on the edge of the Australian bush here, but it's very, very windy, so I'm hoping the mic is cutting out a lot of that. My plan was to bring the tripod, which I've got here, set up the tripod and do more of a professional type show and tell. But given the wind conditions, I'm just going to try and wing it. So let's get right into it. So I'm ducking down a little bit here to try and get out of the wind. Hopefully that's helping. Now, first impressions, and having dropped this, they're pretty damn tough. Now these corners are all replaceable, I believe. It went down, you can see there's one or two scratches there on the MOLLE panels. There's no dents or anything. We've got a couple of scratches there. The great thing about these is, and this might be a comparison to soft or semi-rigid bags, there was no give in this at all. So the bike didn't go down too far. Now, I've had my bike on its side with the semi-rigid bags before, and they've always been full. So I think you get a similar sort of result with those. But anyway, super pleased and super impressed with the toughness of these. They really are built to last. All right, let's take a look inside, and again, apologies if it's quite windy. I'll try my best with the audio. Maybe in post-production I can do a bit of filtering. All right, let's have a look inside. Now, straight off the bat, I haven't fitted the locks. The reason for that is these are pre-sales samples, so I didn't get any locks yet. Once they come, I'll be coding them to match my BMW key, as I did with the Moto Pannier on the back there. I really do like that Moto Pannier, Moto case on the back. Really love that. Just come back from an outback trip to the Flinders. I took my bags, my semi-rigid bags, but I left them in the accommodation during the day and just had all my drone and camera gear in that. I had a small bag on the back and I had my trusty Lone Rider Ranger tank bag, which I never really leave home without. Okay, so let's have a look inside. As I said, locks should be on the way somewhere. Now, great thing about these is you can actually open them or set them up to open from either end. So if you've got the big panniers on, those big wide Lone Ranger panniers, I think they're 57 litres, you can have it opening up a different way, which is really good. Now, as you can see on my moto case, I've got some of the Lone Rider pouches. I've got the water or the bottle holder, I've got the micro bag, and I've got the same setup on the other side. So this one I carry spare fuel, to use for the camping stove and to use for the bike as well. It is a little bit tricky with the bags on the side to open up, but it does go up, but it's a little bit of a squeeze. Okay, now I have heard of other people taking the sides off the MOLLE panels off the motor case, but I don't quite see the point in that. I really like these, and they're a little bit sort of commando Rambo, aren't they? Let's call it tactical. All right, we'll prop this open, mind my fingers out the way, and take a look inside. So I threw in a few items. As I said, my plan for this video was to set up, have the little camping stove going there with a kettle steaming away, and a little bit of sequence, having some lunch and whatnot. So I packed some items in. Here, but we're going to scrap that now. Now, what I haven't fitted, which is really, really cool, these new panniers, the MotoPanniers, come with an attachment, and you can see it's still in the packet. In fact, let me try and not do this with one hand. Hang on a second, guys. All right, so none of this is staged. Sorry, wobbly footage. All right, so let's open that up. And that panel fastens to those little red studs on the top with elastic loops, and then these, again I'm working with one hand here, and then these are velcroed on, so you can store things underneath the lid, which is a really great idea. So you could fit like a first aid kit in there. That's about the size of a big Leatherman. You could probably put a torch or a flashlight, depending on what you call them and where you live. And then there's some other MOLLE stuff on there as well. So that is really cool. Now, the next feature that I like about these is they also include a waterproof bag. So once the panniers are on, you would lock them to the frame. And I'll put a link or maybe some footage of Alex locking them to the frame instead of doing that myself. So you'd lock that to your frames, and then you could just put your stuff in the bags, and then when you're going into your tent, or if you're soft and you're going into a hotel, you take your bags with you instead of taking the whole pannier off. So that is a really good feature. Anyway, I'll bring the camera over again. Hopefully you can see this. You can see here that the whole of the pannier is lined out with this sort of soft material. Whereas, you know, the BMW panniers, it's just bare aluminium or aluminum, depending on how you pronounce it. It's just bare metal, so things will rub in there. Whereas this gives you some padding, which I really, really like. So just back to the accessories. Obviously they're sold in pairs. You wouldn't buy one, I don't think so anyway, but you get the same setup in each. So each time you buy your pannier, every time you unpack your pannier, you're going to get your MOLLE panels and pad. You're going to get your waterproof dry sack, and also we'll put those to one side. You get a pack with some tools, and good quality tools as well, so you can make fine adjustments. You also get, I'll just zoom in on that, you get the same double-sided tape with Velcro USB chargeable lamp, LED light, that you get in the motor case, and I've found that to be really bright when you're camping. You also get some stickers. They used to do this with the moto bags when they first came out. They used to supply some reflectors to go on the back. So you get a bit of a mixture. You get some amber ones, or yellow, if that's what you call it. You get some white ones. I would be putting them forward facing. And you get some red ones. And it's entirely up to you whether you put them on or not. A lot of people like to go triple black. Personally, I like to be seen, especially at in the night time. And the other thing that you also get is in your merch pack, you get some stickers, you get a key ring, and you get one of their Lone Rider buffs. All right, let's talk about how you would open these up. So you would turn the key, obviously. Remember, the barrels aren't in this. And then you give that a little push down, pull back the latch, and swing it over. As you can see, there's a couple of stairs on there to stop it swinging all the way over. And as I mentioned, it does foul a little bit on my accessories, but it's no real big issue. To close it is exactly the reverse of that. Just drop it down, push that over, push the latch in. Okay, let's have a look at taking them off the bike. As you saw, I'm using a mini tripod, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. Similar thing, pull down the latch, and then once you've pulled the latch away, give the bags or the cases a little pull, a little bit tricky with one hand, and pull that out and just lift them away, and it's as easy as that. And obviously the reverse to put them back on the bike. That'll be a bit trickier holding the tripod. All right, let's take a look at what the panniers look like from the back of the bike. Okay, we'll spin the camera around, and there you go. They look quite wide, but they're no wider than the soft bags. And obviously you've got two different types. You've got the full size one there, which I believe is a 34 litre, and then you've got the other one which is a 31. I might be wrong, I'll flash it up on the screen now if I've got it wrong. And overall width is around about 40 inches or 102 centimetres. So they don't stick out any further than the crash bars. And for filtering, if your handlebars will go through, then the Moto panniers are going to go through as well. So another quick look at the side of the panniers. As I showed you before, very tough. They've got handles for carrying. They've also got these loops on the top so you can strap things down. And obviously they've got the MOLLE panels on the top as well. And the other thing they've done is they've improved this time. On the Moto case, you got the Lone Rider patch, but it was like cloth, whereas this time it appears to be like the same Hyperlon. So you don't have to leave that on there. You can go ahead and throw on your country patch and show a bit of pride in where you live. Okay, so let's give you a top look at the panniers. Similar sort of footprint to the Moto case. Very wide opening. I've got a standard sort of professional size tripod, although I'm not a professional photographer, as you saw. But even the full tripod fits in the panniers without any problem at all. If you had a full pannier, you could lash it onto the top there. As I showed you from the side, you've got your luggage location, strapping points, and you've got your MOLLE panels. If you don't need the MOLLE panels, they come off and they give you some blanking plugs to cover up the holes there. All right, so just before we wrap up, let's talk about cost. These aren't cheap. These are around about $3,000 or just under, including delivery. That's 3,000 Australian. Having said that, I mean, how much did you spend on your BMW? You know, I hear a lot of people spend $35,000 on a BMW bike and then whinge over spending $1,000, $2,000 on their luggage. So for me, I think it's a real investment. And with Lone Rider, you get what you pay for. All right, guys, so one last feature of the panniers that no one seems to talk about. You don't need a chair or a table. You can take both panniers off, and if you've got a little piece of wood or something like that, you can make yourself a table or use one as a chair and the other one as a table. I wanted to say a massive thanks to Lone Rider for putting their faith in me to test and review these. Apologies if it wasn't the big movie experience you were expecting, but hopefully you've found it quite authentic. I really do appreciate the opportunity, Lone Rider, given that I'm only one of 3 YouTubers worldwide to receive the pre-sales samples. So I think that says something about how authentic my channel is. Anyway, if you want to buy them, I'll put a link below, and I will get a little bit of pocket money from Lone Rider if you order through the link. I just can't win today. Now there's a plane going over. Anyway, thanks again. Ride safe. Have a great day. Cheers.